Welcome to episode 3 of the Impro podcast. Today in the studio, I have Ben Boy Taylor. So Ben is Alice's brother from episode 2. What's your relationship with improvisation? Are you a musical person?
I had music lessons when I was a child. I had violin lessons, guitar lessons. I've been in a choir for a while, but I wouldn't say I'm a musical person. I'm not playing an instrument at the moment, but I do listen to a lot of music and go to quite a lot of gigs. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be quite different to my sister's podcast because she's much more musical than me.
Okay, so I'm going to play you a piece of music, which is just completely made up. And I want you to tell me what that makes you think of. So it could be an image, could be some sort of emotion, could be something that happened to you, anything really.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. I felt like initially I had an image of autumn and someone was looking out the window and there was rain and they were a bit kind of isolated, I guess. But then it shifted. It was kind of a bit more joyful. It was like sun coming out from behind the clouds. There was movement. It felt like there was something sort of moving, which was, which could have also been water or something.
So it had a water kind of quality to it.
Yeah, there was a sort of rhythm and there was particular notes that were quite high. Somehow it felt kind of like rain and it didn't feel summery to me.
So are you up for telling me a story? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Was there anything that you could imagine a soundtrack on?
So just a moment from my life or just a sign I've seen that could have a soundtrack to it? Yeah, okay. It seems quite random, but this was the thing that popped into my head. So a few years ago, I was traveling in India. I was in this village on a Sunday, and this was a very Christian area of India. The buses and jeeps in that area were very limited at that point. Well, you can wait 5 hours for the next jeep, or you can get on the roof of this jeep. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to get on the roof of this jeep. Thing is it wasn't like a normal road. It was a rocky road with a sheer drop on the side and low-hanging branches. So often you're just trying to dodge the branches. It was crazy. I hadn't realised what I was signing up for. And then I got to my destination and I was trying to get further than that. And I was stuck in the same problem. So I kind of felt under a bit of pressure. I really need to get to this city, but how do I get there? And the person I stayed with, he said, my mate's got a motorbike. He could drive you there. He's going that way. So then I got on the back of this motorbike with my large rucksack. We just drove an hour or a few hours on the back of this motorbike with this huge rucksack. If I'd given it much thought, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. This is crazy. Going on the back of a motorbike with no helmet on these horrible roads. What are you doing, Ben? But it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
When I think about a piece of music, I try and split it up into different points of the narrative. The same thing you do when you score a film. You could start with, say, confusion, as in you don't know what's happening, what's going on with this bus station, there's limited transport, and then you have a moment of clarity, and then there's this comic but dangerous journey that ensues. Yeah, okay. Here we go then.
There's very much this sense of movement again. There was moments where it was quite scary because of the sheer drops and stuff, but I found the experience quite exciting. I wasn't focusing on it. And in that, there was moments where there was some sort of fear, but the fear didn't dominate. It was just like a little motif that came in. And then there was more of a feeling of excitement and kind of wonder. But for me, it conveyed definitely a sense of adventure, the piece.
I mean, if I was to do it again, would there be anything that you say to improve it? Or was there anything that struck you as not quite working?
I guess it's those moments. The whole piece was kind of seamless. It kept going. Whereas in my experience of the event it was like, okay, I have to make this decision. So it was kind of like there was pauses almost where I was trying to make up my mind. Then I would go. And in those pauses, there was quite a lot of like thoughts going through my mind. I wasn't totally afraid of what was going to happen, but I was just like, oh, should I go for this, or should I just wait 5 hours for the next one? Is this the right thing? I guess there was a bit of anxiety beforehand, but while I was on the roof, I wasn't really scared. Yeah, the only thing I wondered was the time of day, because it felt very much like it happened at night. And I wasn't really sure if I could hear it. It was night in a way.
It's actually quite a hard concept to get right with just a piano, but it's an interesting one. Maybe you could use that as a next theme for a story. Do you have something which has an unusual time of day, something that happened at a weird time, or even just time as a theme?
Something that happened at a weird time. I remember being at university. This was at UEA, and outside where I lived, there was these flat roofs, and we weren't allowed to go on the flat roofs, but sometimes we would. There was a night where we just took loads of chairs up to this flat roof and just sat outside playing tunes and drinking and stuff. And every now and then security, they would come around in their vehicle and we would just duck down, be like, okay, we need to get out of the way, security's coming. But it was really nice. Yeah, it was a very memorable evening and night, really.
And it was something about the fact that it wasn't really loud that improved it, you think?
Yeah, definitely. That was half the fun, avoiding security and the risk that we could actually be told off for doing it.
So I'm just going to go for the vibe, sitting on the rooftop. I guess this is early hours of the morning. So
yeah.
Did you see the sunrise?
Yeah, we saw it rise over the lake. And I remember around sunrise, we saw a few animals. I saw some munkjack deer, saw a fox just wandering around campus. Because of the students, you just generally don't see them so close to where the students are. Yeah, I felt like there all sorts happened in there. There were moments where I felt like I could feel the sun coming up. I was kind of moving from deeper notes to sort of lighter notes, almost like bird songs. Yeah, but also I was thinking about what you were saying about time, how it's quite hard trying to convey time in terms of the time of day in a piece of music.
So I think one last story. So are there any themes or emotions that come to mind?
I could go with an emotion.
Well, confusion.
Confusion, okay. One night stand, I'll go with that. Seeing someone, you have a lovely evening with them, and then through that experience, you actually feel like you have more feelings for them than you were intending. But obviously it's just nothing's going to happen with it. They don't feel the same way. That's quite a confusing place, really.
Okay. So you talk about kind of attachment there, or possibly that's more one-sided.
Yeah. And that element of trying to say, this is just a one-night stand. I don't want to fall for this person. But sometimes that you still can develop feelings through that. It's like we can't stop there being feelings,
Okay. So basically you've got an evolution between what something was kind of fun and something that was spontaneous, and then that becomes more serious on one end, and then there's this kind of sense of not sure where we stand here, maybe.
Yeah, and confusion. It's like I can imagine like more happening with this person, but actually that's not going to happen. And I know that I'm trying to tell myself that's the reality, but my emotions are telling me that they want something different. They don't want to listen to that reason.
Okay, I will see what I can do. So what did you think to that?
Yeah, what I liked was it wasn't totally heartbroken. Like, because some bits where it's like, okay, that's just soppy and heartbroken. But there was a sense of joy and excitement at the beginning. And then there was kind of feeling more of conflict later on, whether that's conflict for yourself or just the two of you feel differently. The bit I was wondering about, I didn't really hear, was kind of that passion. It feels like there's a sort of build up and then there's this moment of passion and then it's kind of this different bit.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll give it another go then. Let's try this. actually really hard to do.
Yeah. No, I definitely got more of a sense of it that time. Yeah.
The narrative of the story made more sense with the music.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that we'll call it a day there. So what did you feel you got out of the podcast?
I feel like it was just thinking about music in a different way. Like I don't often have an opportunity to kind of just sit down and think about musical composition because I'm not someone who composes music myself. It's quite interesting thinking about that. I do that with film and with photography, but I don't do it so much with music.
And I think when making films, it's this whole relationship between the composer and the director and how the director tries to portray the vision across. And you have this kind of conversation that happens.
Yeah, because we're talking about conveying time. Well, in a film, the images convey that time of day. So it's like the music works with that, but it's not having to completely convey that because it's also got the visuals alongside it. Whereas when you're just composing a piece, you're having to create the visuals from the piece. And it's quite hard too, that idea of like using music to plant a visual in someone's mind, because it's not like writing and visuals. It is much more overt, the meaning, whereas with music, there's a lot more interpretation. Different people would hear different stories in it, you know, and I guess that's kind of the beauty of it. You never completely convey the same message to everyone, and everyone kind of puts their own meaning on it.
Well, thank you very much. It's been very insightful.
Yeah, thank you for this experience. It's a worthwhile venture, exploring composition.
Join us next time for another episode of ImproPod. Thanks for listening.